to start. And we have the folks from Coastal here. I want to make it clear that number one, Coastal is here because they were courteous enough to offer to come here. There's nothing that makes them come here. This is not an official proceeding of the P&Z. This is not a public information workshop. Coastal is the engineer working for the developer. The developer is another party. These guys are just doing the engineering. In the last P&Z meeting, when the P&Z stalled and it was 3:30 in the afternoon, they started at 9, we were all there. I said, I think it'd be best if we continue this in another meeting. So what was gonna happen on the 8th now has been moved to February. At the end of the meeting, I went over to talk to the Coastal folks, and they said we could come out and do a little presentation for everybody. So I jumped on that. So I said, if we'll make it happen if you're willing to come out. So they're here to tell you what it is they're designing and engineering. They're not here to receive any kind of comments about you don't like this, you don't like that. This is not for opposition. This is only for your knowledge to understand what's going to happen out there. If you have opposition for it, save your comments for the P&Z meeting that'll come up. You can express them there, but at least you'll do it from a knowledge standpoint. And with that, I will let you introduce your team.
So I'm Cliff Manuel with Coastal Engineering. I'm president, owner, and a little background for you guys that probably might not know me. I'm so old, I was the original EOR for this project. So we kicked this off years ago, built everything out here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, gotta keep it close.
So we've had a long history with the Wellington community. I was lucky to be out here with the original developers. We did all of Seven Hills, all of Wellington. It's one of the, I think, nicer communities that we were ever involved in. Y'all turned it into a real nice place to visit. It's a community right when you walk in the front door. And hats off to everybody that lives here because you've kept it in good shape, and it's some things up to speed for y'all when you need us. The HOA is a good partner and has been for years with Coastal. So anytime the HOA reaches out and wants us to come out and visit, we're going to take the opportunity to do it. With me is Don Lacey, my senior planner, and Elizabeth, my assistant planner. Don has been working with me continuously in the same building since 1981. So we've been together for a long time. We like to get involved in these kinds of projects. And what our goal today is, after he does an overview of what we're proposing to do on the property just south of y'all, is actually take questions for y'all, answer questions you may have, write those questions down and plan to address them in our public hearing. So it's as much us presenting to you what we're doing, but also the feedback from y'all would be appreciated for anything that you would like us to address or maybe we haven't looked at already. So with that, I'll turn it over to my senior planner, Mr. Lacey, and he'll go over the project with y'all.
Just you need to keep the microphone close so people in the back can hear.
This microphone working too. Hi, folks. Cliff's right, we've been at this for over 40 years here. I laid out Wellington, and then Cliff made it work. And so if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let him know. We've always seen that property between you and County Line Road there. We knew at some point in time it was going to come forward and going to develop. I always wondered what it would be, hoped that we'd be involved in it. The prior developer to that piece, walked away from the property. They had a rather interesting concept, but it was a lot different than what you're anticipating here. I believe you're going to like the concept that's planning to go in here now much better. First of all, as a senior, it's not going to be single-family lots for sale. They're actually going to be small villas. They're like 2 units together. And they're going to be for lease. They're going to be rentals, and it's all going to be senior. It's done by actually one of the original developers of Seven Hills, Alex Deeb, and Deeb Development. They've done this successfully down in Pasco and I believe Pinellas County. There's going to be 220 units. They're going to access primarily, from County Line Road. This is your property that we're looking at, Wellington. Obviously, you can see on the north side and then County Line Road. It's partially treed at this point in time, and it goes all the way, essentially almost from Farnsworth at its very northwestern corner all the way over to Vernada, which is the community that just developed over there on the parcel to the east. Our access will be from County Line Road, and we can.
Want to do the arrows for you?
Yeah, better arrow, man. Our access is going to be directly from County Line Road. That's where the entrance is going to be. It's going to be gated. It's as a rental community. There's going to be recreation made as part of that. You can see that area in green generally there. And a nice looped road coming through there. A second access point will come out at Farnsworth, just below your entrance there from Wellington. And it will match up directly with the Quality Drive. It's essentially going to be able to, people will be able to come from Quality Drive and come directly in there. Because we're senior oriented, the ability to get over to all of the facilities, be they medical, be they commercial, etc., over in Seven Hills is important. In this way, they would be able to do that without having to go on and off County Line Road. The individual units will all have their own driveways, all have their own garages. They're all going to be single story. Here's a depiction of generally what they're going to look like. And there's going to be drainage retention areas in there. I don't know that they're going to be a lake like this, but this is an example of a deep community down in Pasco County. And you will probably, there'll be neighbors similar to yourselves, and being single story, being quiet community, having relatively a little bit less traffic impacts. I think this would be an excellent community to have as a neighbor. There'll be 220 units, and they will be providing a buffer along the north side. And I'm going to let Cliff talk a little bit about the buffer. We do have an example in here that you can look at, and Cliff, you want to pick up on the buffer a little bit for us?
I've been blessed to be working with the county and all kinds of different buffer considerations to make them work for communities. And one of the best ones I've ever seen, Alex Deeb actually used in a couple of his communities in Pasco County. He is able to buy and plant 7 to 8 foot tall red cedar trees, 36 on center. This is right after they've been planted. They become easily 100% opaque in 3 years, meeting the county's requirement for 80% opaque in 3 years. It's much better than a PVC vinyl fence, in my opinion. We use it with him almost exclusively. I don't know of a lot of other developers that do it. It would be planted in such a way that the trees would be on his side of the natural vegetation that's currently in your backyard, sort of behind your community. And it would be planted with our startup of construction. One of the things the county's required that's new, largely because of communities that have developed next to ones like yours, is they're wanting these buffers to be installed up front and become part of what they call now a construction buffer. Historically, that wasn't done, and the issues it creates is similar to the one that just started next to y'all. A lot of dust and settlement, starts flying around the site while you're working, and there's nothing really between the homeowners adjacent to your project and the property. So in this case, the county's wanting us to consider, and has asked us in this zoning application to consider with our client, actually coming in and putting these in as we initiate construction versus putting them in at the very end of construction, which has been historically what's happened in Hernando County. The other thing about these particular trees, the fact they're 7 or 8 feet tall to begin with, planted on 36-inch centers, they immediately provide a screen where a lot of buffers that you'll see planted by developers are very small, takes them a long time to grow in, and I think this is a better alternative than a fence and that type of landscaping for y'all to consider. The place that we're promoting this to be in is between this development and your community. It's not going to be along County Line Road, and it won't be on either side. And if you look at the property that was just developed immediately east of this, they already have a wall and some small vegetation next to their community that they've installed this will be a much better buffer than what you see there, from my perspective, for y'all to consider.
We were asked to address a number of issues that were regarding the community, so we say on the community concerns, we probably have a lot of questions, but we can start with these. All the products are villas, and the minimum living space is 1,000 square feet per unit, so you're gonna be looking at buildings that are approximately 2,000 plus square foot. You're gonna be looking at the back of units that'll look like a big a reasonable size single family house. There's no commercial, there's no apartments, there's no multi-story buildings that are gonna be placed into here. And the maximum height of the buildings essentially will be 25 feet, which is probably, I think yours are allowed to have 25 or 35 feet if you have two-story. Oh, is that it? Just one page of concerns? Okay, then.
Well, the other thing you wanted to mention there is it is going to be a senior living.
Yeah, I'll confirm that. Is all seniors. It's not going to be. It's not going to be marketed to seniors. It's actually going to be limited to seniors. With that, we can answer any questions that y'all have, and we have comment sheets over there for anybody that actually wants to give us a comment sheet that you want us to share potentially with the county or with the developer with any thoughts that you might have. Yes, sir.
What's going to be the height of the fence back where the buffer is?
So everybody can hear.
We're proposing to eliminate the fence and plant the red cedars, and then leave the natural vegetation. I personally, I don't know what y'all think, but I've seen a lot of those PVC fences, and I wouldn't have one in my backyard. I'd prefer the cedars, so what we're proposing for the county to consider is planting the 7 to 8 foot tall, initially, red cedars at 36 on center. That picture that I showed a few minutes ago shows what that looks like when they're installed. And why don't you just hold on to that?
Yeah, you take care of it for us.
Much smarter.
The younger people are much more.
Always work with millennials. Anything electronic. So what we're proposing to put between this development and Wellington are those cedars. And they grow very well in sandy soils. In 3 years, they're 100% opaque. They grow together. They get up to 20, 25 foot tall. They're just really good. They're more expensive. They're pretty expensive to buy and plant. But it's a better buffer, and Mr. Deeb wants his residents to also benefit from a buffer in the backyard that's pleasant. So he's planting them for 2 reasons. One, to provide a buffer to y'all, but also to buffer his community as well, something that's attractive to look at.
In the back in red? In the back in red?
You gonna make me walk?
Oh.
Go ahead again.
I want to inquire, you have access from the development to County Line Road. Will you be putting up a traffic light there?
So the developer cannot put up a traffic light, and the interesting thing about the Farnsworth County Line Road intersection is it is currently under design for 4-laning, and they're planning to redo that intersection for the 4-lane configuration. The county also, in that project, could consider warranting a signal, and then they collect our impact fees that we pay with our building permits to build those types of facilities, but we can't warrant a signal. Only the county and FDOT can, and FDOT currently is looking at the potential of making County Line Road a state road. So it'd be like 52, 56, 58, and they're spending money right now on County Line Road to create that 4-lane traffic configuration, and ultimately I think they probably would signal Farnsworth.
And part of our development requirements are to provide approximately, I think, 40 feet along County Line Road to allow for the expanded right-of-way for the 4-laning.
Correct.
So hang on a second.
Go ahead.
Just one of the things that we tackled when we did the opposition to the predecessor was the fact of a traffic light. And the county commission agreed that if the light's coming, it should be at Farnsworth. And at the time, the developer, John Silvero, if he had been first, if his project had gone ahead, he would have been the one that would have been tagged with putting the light up. Then that became, well, let's see what the guys are gonna do a little further down the street, the Lennar. And Lennar came and they said, well, okay, but he's not building, he's not here. So the light has just kind of went off into the ether. So it's good to know that maybe there's gonna be a 4-lane wide intersection there, but it sounds like the light's way off in the distant future.
So there's a couple things that,
Close, gotta hold it close.
my light, there it is. There's a couple of things that go into making signals work, but the most important is the signal needs to go in once the project is 4-lane. If you put one in today with a 2-lane configuration, as soon as they 4-lane it, it's budgeted to be improved in the next 5 years, everything you put in has to come out. So the state and the county know that y'all want a light there. The county and the state can warrant a light there. And what we should do, when I say we, the community should put pressure on the state to look at that intersection for a signal with the county line road 4-laning improvements.
Okay, so based on your knowledge of FDOT and some of their rules at the state level, is a temporary signal, one of those trailer mounted signals, a possible solution there in the interim?
I would think not, but I've never asked for that type of signal to be installed. There's no temporary signal when you have to put up the mast arms and hang the lights. You know, as soon as you do all that, it's you know, it's a
Well, I've lived in-
$700,000 improvement, and it's permanent until it's removed. And
I've lived in communities where they've mounted, they're literally a trailer and generator mounted signal that hangs over the intersection, and they're not intelligent, they operate on a time cycle.
I have not seen it, so I can't answer your question. I haven't seen that application.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yes, ma'am? And then I'm gonna come up here. I think someone over here. Oh, you got someone? Okay. You walk around to where you wanna go, and we'll respond to who you hand the mic to.
Well, like people telling me.
All right, no problem.
At the intersection of Farnsworth Drive and Quality Drive, as you go east, there's quite a great transition between the homes on that court and what would have to be the grade coming in off of Farnsworth. How are you gonna handle that? Will you put in a retaining wall? And also, how will you handle the plantings, the screening in that area where the extension of Quality Drive comes east to where, before it turns south?
So we haven't got into the final grading configurations for the site yet because we gotta get through the zoning application first, but I am familiar with the area you're talking about. Deed will put in a retaining wall if necessary. We have to do all of our grading on site. We also have to protect the buffers that we've shown you. So if we can't do that on site and make the grade transition, the only option he'll have is to put in a retaining wall. We've done that for him. In fact, we used to put in projects with what we call the deed wall. But it's something we would look at to make that transition work. And then we still have to plant. So when we go to the board and tell them we're gonna plant these cedars across that entire area in a combination of grading, wall, and the cedar trees, we're committing that publicly to the board, and it will be a staff condition for approval that we'll have to do in order to get our COs in the project.
So the cedar trees will go all the way to Farnsworth.
What's that? I'm sorry.
The cedar trees will go all of the way to Farnsworth.
Yeah, they'll go along the entire northern boundary of our property, southern boundary of yours.
And that is also meant to be a tree-lined roadway access through there, so in addition to the buffer, you know, there's gonna be trees on the other side of the road,
Just
so
for
they'll
the
be able to look for the entrance. That's where that little leg of entrance from Farnsworth, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna change the format a second. I have one microphone.
Okay.
I'm gonna stand over here and make like I'm the podium. And anybody that wants to speak, I'll be happy to hand you the microphone.
He's had his arm up about.
Just,
3 times.
whoever had your hand up the first, come on up here.
Yep.
You? It would be you.
More questions about the back gate over there. Obviously, there's gonna be some, a 90-degree angle there where Wellington is coming in and out, and your folks are coming in and out. Have you done some kind of a traffic analysis about that, where there's gonna be a stop sign or yield, or how about all of that thinking?
We did a traffic analysis to determine whether or not we can put this project on County Line Road. The actual on-site design configurations to make that intersection work, we have not looked at yet. There's a lot of design that's done after you get your land use approval, and if you think of it logically, most developers won't spend the money to design their project until they know they're gonna be able to get the land use associated with the proposed use approved. And it's not always a guarantee. I mean, the board, sometimes denies projects and then you don't have anything to move forward with. I can tell you this, the county and DOT, the county has adopted DOT's design criteria, and the county has what they call facilities design guidelines that we have to follow for these types of intersections. If we can't make them safe by stop conditions, stop signs, that 90-degree angle could even be altered in its final configuration to work. But we have to meet those standards, sign and seal them, and then get them approved by the county before we can build it. And they have to meet all the state and county safety criteria for public road use. And Quality Drive's public. When it comes into this community, it is gonna be private. All these streets are private and they're gonna be gated. But the safety issues still have to be addressed, private or public.
Just one thing I would add to the issue with Farnsworth is we have our back gate, as you know, at Farnsworth. There could be a problem with stacking of traffic where we start to get cars trapped in the gate. Now, the gate is supposed to have all the safety devices, keep it from crunching a car, but who knows? Makes people nervous when the gate is sitting there shaking. But I just want to point out that if you add a stop sign at Farnsworth and Quality, that could have the effect of stopping traffic at the gate. The flow pattern is right now, a lot of people are coming down Quality to try to jump the light that is at Mariner and County Line Road. So they're running along Quality, they get all the way down here to Farnsworth, they don't even look in the Wellington direction, they just make their turn and zip along. So we've had a couple accidents with cars there, but I would caution you to look at what could happen with stacking at the gate. The gate has been there for 20 years, so we're not wanting to move the gate inward. Just want you to consider what could happen with traffic there.
Not that some comments are more important than others, but I would like to make sure that hits your comment sheets over there we're gonna pick up. I will look at that specifically, and I understand your perspective. And it's a proper one. We have to make that work. We don't want a whole bunch of cars stacked up there, and I know a lot of people do cut through to get back out to County Line Road, so we'll deal with that traffic situation. Yes, sir.
My question is the buffer zone setback / setback. How many feet is that from our property first? That's the first part of my question.
The buffer strip along the north boundary, I believe, is 15 feet up.
Okay, so the total setback is 35 feet. Well,
Yeah, it's setback to the house.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So it would be 20 feet, 15 feet would be the buffer zone. Where do the trees go then? Do they go there?
My developer friend would like me to plant them on the north side. The county requires us to plant them on the south side so that the natural vegetation that exists in that area today remains.
Okay, so you would maintain that 15 feet of whatever it is.
Understood. Well, the grading on this plan is gonna make us plant some of it back and part of it's pasture, but that 15 feet of undisturbed area would be on your side of the cedar trees.
Okay, and then the cedar trees, how tall and how wide are they when you first put them in? 'Cause I didn't-
So they come in 7 to 8 feet. So,
High?
Yep.
Okay.
Right when they're purchased. He plants them on 36-inch centers, and as you see in the picture, they already touch. And the county requirement is they're supposed to be 80% opaque buffer in 3 years. These trees grow so fast and so quick, in 3 years, it'll be 100% opaque. They're a really good buffer consideration.
And obviously that's our fence, or that's
Yep.
a fence.
Right.
Okay, very good.
I think it's a better fence personally.
We'd just like to know if your employer for whom you work, have they already purchased this land, or are they considering it?
Alex purchased it.
So it is bought.
Yeah, he bought it.
Okay, thank you.
They made you come all the way from your seat over there, even though you were the second guy with your hand up.
The other part of my question is, since they have purchased it, do they have a start date in mind?
So to get the permits and all done for him, he would be lucky to start the second quarter of next year. There's a lot of permitting that has to be done after you get your land use.
Second quarter of '25.
Yeah, first to second quarter of 25.
If you have an end date in mind.
So the nice thing about this project, it's a little different from the ones where the homes are built individually and then sold, you know. This is a community where he's building all the infrastructure in common, maintains it all, provides all the maintenance, owns all the roads, and he builds all the units and then he rents them. So these projects go a lot quicker than your single family home construction, but it's still, you know, 11 to 14 months construction period. You just can't hardly get in and out of them any quicker. It's got to build a pump station, water mains, roads, drainage systems, and then all the buildings. So I think it would be, the earliest they could start would be first quarter 2025, and then a 11 to 14 month construction period.
Thank you for the answer, and thank you for being here as well. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
My question is Quality Drive a reverse frontage road for the public, or is that going to be part of the gated area of the community?
So
The extension.
our developer has proposed that it be gated and private through the two communities that are attached to the extension. The county engineer wants us to make sure that it's open to the public. So that right now is being debated between the developer applicant and the county's county engineer for how that road's gonna function once it's connected to Quality Drive.
And if you would rather have it private versus public access to going all the way further to the east of Urbana, that would be another thing that I would put on your comment sheet, saying you'd rather not have Urbana traffic routed through there to get to that intersection.
We plan to gate it and make it private, but apparently, I forget the name of what's the project to the east? Verona. Apparently when the project to the east of this one was approved, they got into a debate for how this road's gonna work, and that project agreed to extend a road to this piece of property and agreed with the county engineer that it could be open to the public. We really don't want that, so we're gonna see where that goes, but right now it's not final. Well, it's not final till the VOCC votes. So basically until they vote to approve the concept plan that we've come up with,
But that's
it would
right,
be-
you're gonna go back to the P&Z, and then a month later, they're gonna do
The Board of
Right.
County Commissioners.
so
yes.
it's February 12th. So February 12th we'll be back to so there were so many moving parts to this proposal. We actually asked the P&Z to postpone it so that we could get on top of several issues for the community, have this meeting, and several issues that the county staff created. So it's going back to the Planning and Zoning Board February 12th. And if they approve it, well, no, it still goes to the BOCC. So then the P&Z, they don't really approve anything, they make recommendations, so they vote and say, we recommend to the BOCC that you approve it with conditions or you deny it. And then they make a recommendation to the BOCC. BOCC hearing will be in March. That's when the final determination's made as to what we have to build and don't build in the community. And that frontage road issue is a hot topic of discussion with us right now. We're trying to
It seemed
think.
like they were trying to put a frontage road all the way down to,
That's what the county
Other
engineer wants to do.
publics.
No, he does. That's the county engineer wants a frontage road. And it would,
okay, so I guess we have to, as a community, decide what's better and make sure we're heard.
I would definitely make that a comment, because if that is connected all the way through there, we'll have additional traffic from the Marana.
Right.
And if you'd rather not have that get to that intersection, then you'd rather this be kept private like we're talking about for the community, our community.
My prediction would be, especially if we had community support from y'all, that the BOCC will see the logic in letting this street be private.
Yep.
It's not a public street, it's not being built to frontage road standards, and it's gonna be gated. And really, it's very difficult to maintain a senior-only facility like this with one owner that's rental and have it be open to, public roads zipping through the middle of it. So,
Thank you.
we plan to oppose it being public. We are opposing it being public.
Hi, thanks for coming out.
You're welcome.
I have a few questions. Is there actually a connection to the community to the east?
That will be determined at the public hearing. We have shown it because it was there in the previous one, and there's an
You
extension.
go through it to get to the hospitals and the commercial areas on Quality Drive. It doesn't have to be open to the public. The other thing they allow us to do on these types of situations is just to allow emergency vehicles only through there. You put a knock box on it, and the only thing that can go through the gate to get to a home or a fire, or if someone's having a medical condition, is a EMS, fire, ambulances, those types of things. So I think my prediction is that it will either be emergency only or two private roads connecting to each other with a gate there that only the two communities can use to get to Quality Drive. It's my prediction.
Okay, second question. What's the name of the community in Pasco County you were referencing?
It's on that sheet. Quail something.
That's the name of the.
Small
the
Quail?
layout.
Oh, the layout? Oh, that's the name of the layout? Do you know the name of the community? I'll get that to y'all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And the last question I have is, how do you implement or enforce the 55H requirement? Not you personally, but the developer.
If it's single family home, you have to file a whole bunch of paperwork with the state and get the state to agree that it's gonna be age restricted. This one is, one owner, he rents all the units, and he doesn't rent to anybody, younger than 55.
So
He does
it's-
senior communities, and he doesn't want the kids, he does a bunch of these, but he gets the most benefit from his communities being 55 and older.
Well, I understand that, but, so it's just the owner's choice to do that, there's no legal requirement.
You can't zone it, so the county can't zone it and say, it's gonna force you to do 55 and older. We are making that a part of our public record, so what we're putting on the public record is a 55 and older, one owner, all rental. And then the other thing that's triggered by this commitment is school concurrency. If we start moving kids in violation of what we want the community to be, we start generating children, and we gotta get school concurrency. When you go through the zoning process and approval process and you commit to being 55 and older, you don't generate kids, and so you don't have to place students in the schools. All of that'll be a part of the public record. But I hear you loud and clear. I mean, we've seen it a million times. People can come in later and gum up all kinds of things.
So what would have to happen if that owner or a different owner decided they wanted to allow school children?
They'd have to go back through zoning and update their school concurrency application, because right now they're not placing any students.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to address the trees that you're gonna put in.
Yep.
Those have to be maintained and watered, especially if you're gonna put them in during the construction process. How are they gonna get watered? I mean, I know I see a water truck once in a while, but if you look at the development to the east of it, every other tree is dead, so, or dormant, so.
We're not going to
Just
follow
concerned
that. That is not what we think is a buffer. I'm not talking bad about my neighbors, but that needs to be addressed to actually become an area where natural vegetation can grow. But back to your question, so we're installing these now with another developer, not this developer. We're doing landscaping enhancement, and the way that we're getting everything to grow is we go to the water management district and we pull a 4-inch well permit, and we use the 4-inch well to create a independent irrigation system that doesn't require public water. In fact, there's some in here like that. In fact, that's one of the first places we use a lot of those things, because we were planting pine trees in your DRAs back then. But anyway, the other thing about pines and cedars, they are water tolerant. They don't require as much water to be healthy, but they will have to be irrigated to grow. And he'll commit not only putting them in, but establishing them to live. And like I said, it's a benefit if you think of it logically. He wants the same thing in the backyard for the units he's renting. And he doesn't want a bunch of dead cedars back there.
I like the idea of the trees and having it, possibly on a berm, to raise them up and give us that buffer zone, live rather than the fence that's gonna get moldy and fall down and so on. So I agree with that. It just needs to be maintained.
And they will commit to do that. And the county now has got themselves into the commitments as well. While we're proposing buffers for transitions between communities, they've added to their buffer requirements different types of buffers you can build. They also have to be maintained, not only initially by the developer when they put them in, but ultimately by the HOA for the community that has to work with Alex to keep them alive.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions, comments, druthers? Surely there's more. You're getting off easy, guys. No more? I'm gonna, come on, dude. It's always room for one.
Does your plan recognize the existing sinkhole on the property?
It does.
Okay, well, you're not gonna provide, you're just gonna leave that as open space?
It's actually a part of the open space drainage areas, but the nice thing about those small sinks that we find from time to time, there's two ways to deal with them. The most important thing you want to do when you find a sink on your property that's directly connected to the aquifer is work with the water management district to plug it, because you really don't want your stormwater from your streets and other things going into the aquifer. But we are aware of it, we've identified it, and we plan to plug it, so it's no longer connected.
Is that a SWIFT permit?
Yes, SwiftMud has geology, hydrogeology and geology department, and they have criteria for how you can plug sinkholes when you don't want them to be connected in your post-development.
We still letting them off easy? Okay, I hope it was worthwhile for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all for coming. Appreciate it.